alte Lieder weiß ich in der Kälte ohne Schuh. Draußen in die Seiten reiß ich, weiß nicht, wo ich abends ruh. Manche Schöne macht wohl Augen, meinet, ich gefiel ihr sehr, wenn ich nur was wollte taugen, so ein armer Lump nicht wär.
Dear Diary, the procedure of mourning does not necessarily take place at a funeral. See, my darling diary, death is a funny thing. It has the ability to disguise itself as life. Let me start from the beginning, so you can understand what I am talking about. They say it takes extraordinary patience to hear the ramblings of a raving lunatic. It was a cold, dreary night, and I heard a knocking on my door. Who could be knocking at such an odd hour? I opened the door only to see an oddly shaped insect before me. It looked like some sort of centipede with a crooked back. "Do you not know me?" it asked. "Know you? Why should I?" I growled. "Well, believe it or not, we are connected in the most unusual way. We both share the same womb. We are bound by blood," the centipede triumphantly declared. Anastasia was not sure what to believe, but if there was one grain of truth to what this centipede said, then that would mean that my unique genes are actually shared by another. "Would you like to play a game of chess?" asked the centipede. "I'm afraid I don't know how to," I replied. "I'll teach you," said the centipede. And so the centipede taught Anastasia this classic game, and we would often play on dark, dreary nights lit by candlelights. Soon I began to look up to the centipede, for it became a teacher to me. Not a teacher of subjects one learns in school, but a teacher of life. And so each day for many, many years, the centipede would allocate at least an hour to teach this very important lesson of life. I would always look forward to my lessons, and like a hungry student eager for knowledge, I would absorb every grain of information into my veins. Soon this knowledge began to make me feel very strong, almost godlike. In fact, I would often pity the mere mortals around me, for they were never exposed to the great education that the wise centipede so graciously provided me with. One day, just as my lesson began, I heard a loud, high-pitched squealing sound in the distance. The centipede promptly let out a terrified yelp. "I've got to go!" "But wait," I shouted. "My lesson has not finished!" But the centipede quickly scurried off. I soon followed it into a dark cave. But I couldn't go any further, for I was barricaded by a mountain of cobwebs. The shrieking got louder and louder. The sound was so intensely excruciating that I felt my eardrums were going to explode. Then suddenly before me stood the most hideous, ugliest creature I had ever seen. It was a giant hairy spider. This was the Black Widow. "Get out!" shouted the spider, as its giant eyes bulged with perfect hatred against me. "No one wants to see a freak like you," it bellowed. "I don't mean you any harm, you ugly spider. I came for the centipede," I calmly answered. "Centipede cannot be with you," shouted the spider. "Can't you see? It's busy. It's all tied up." And sure enough, when I looked over, the centipede was tied up by a barrage of cobwebs. "I am attached now," whimpered the centipede. "Go away, Anastasia." The next day I still eagerly went for my lesson, but to my disappointment, the centipede was an hour late. "What's that white thing around your neck?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" snapped the centipede. "There is nothing around my neck." Let the lessons begin. Just as the lesson began, I could see the white cobwebs around its neck tighten. Lesson is over, time is up, grunted the centipede. But it's only 4 minutes. How can you give such a short lesson? The intricacies of life cannot be explained in such a short period of time, I implored. Oh, but things are different now. I am now attached to this spider, and I've got to go back to the cave, answered the centipede. But why? I asked. It's this thing called love, replied the centipede. The cobwebs tightened even more, and the centipede was pulled into the dark, followed by a trail of white threads. The next day, the centipede showed up for my lesson, looking more haggard in appearance. It was also missing some legs. What happened? I asked. Oh, the black widow was hungry and I had to feed her, answered the centipede as it pathetically limped towards me. But couldn't you feed it something else? I asked. No, it needed to eat my legs, the centipede answered in a very defensive tone. But you need your legs for walking. Why give those useful limbs up so easily? I asked. You don't understand, Anastasia. The ugly beast needs me. It's this thing called love, said the centipede in a very impatient, angry tone. But this does not make any sense to me, I said. Anastasia, you don't know what love is because you have never had love, it replied. Well, you are right, centipede. I have never given my legs for someone else to eat. If that's what love is, I hope I never get it, I answered. Listen to me, Anastasia. Before this beast, I was rotting from the inside. So now, it makes no difference, for instead of rotting from the inside, I am now rotting from the outside. This was bound to happen. This is my fate, said the centipede as it slithered into the darkness. The centipede's response struck a deep chord within me. And as months passed, the centipede would often miss its lessons or show up very late. And while I realized that the quality of my lessons had greatly decreased, I hoped that it was just a temporary phase. But I soon realized that this was not the case. Within 1 minute of the lesson, the noose around its neck almost always would tighten, followed by an excruciating high-pitched squeal. After 3 minutes, it was soon yanked off, and its limp body was dragged through the mud as it headed towards the cave of cobwebs where the spider lived. This pattern was most disturbing to me. I soon found my lessons to be completely worthless. It was just too short. Life cannot be explained in 2 minutes. The centipede also began to undergo a very strange metamorphosis. Each time the centipede showed up, it was missing various body parts. Soon its eye, legs, and other limbs had disappeared, and since its legs were all missing, it would slither around sluggishly like an earthworm, completely oblivious of the huge red marks around its neck. It was shocking to see the centipede in such a docile state, and depressing to witness the cobwebs around its neck dictate its life. Also, the centipede became increasingly dull. Even the 1 minute lesson was painfully boring. Honestly, my darling diary, I have more fun talking to the walls in my cave, because as you know, they do have some interesting things to say. I also realized that not everyone wants to be free. Many are content being imprisoned. Living in a docile state is an acceptable way of living for many. And so it soon came to pass. I decided not to bother with the centipede and stopped even attempting to attend its 1 minute lessons. And as time went on, I soon forgot about the centipede, for it was no longer a significant part of my life. And so it was another cold, dreary night, and I heard a knocking on my door. Who could that be, knocking at such an odd hour in the night? I peeped through the peephole, only to see a strangely shaped insect. It was some sort of earthworm, haggard in appearance, with a huge belly. "Who are you?" I asked. "It's me, the centipede," it feebly answered. "Let me in." "But I don't see a centipede. I see an earthworm." "I know of no earthworm," I exclaimed. "Oh, Anastasia, let me in," it begged. "You must let me in. After all, we are bound by blood." Bound by blood, I laughed. How could I be bound to such an ugly earthworm? "But I am not an earthworm. I am the wise centipede that used to be your teacher," implored the creature. The insect kept knocking on my door, but I refused to open it. Soon it got tired, and as I looked out of my window, I could see the earthworm pathetically slithering away into the darkness. I almost felt sorry for that insect, for there was something familiar about it, but I couldn't quite place my finger on it. But then again, my darling diary, the lesson learned here is that one must never open the door to a stranger. Anastasia.
Manche Schöne macht wohl allgemeinet, ich gefiel ihr sehr, wenn ich nur was wollte taugen, so ein armer Lump nicht wär. Mag dir Gott ein Mann bescheren, wohl mit 1000 Hochversehn.